Oh, is the music over? Okay. Hi, everybody. We're back. It's another week.
Another Humpday Q&A. Here we go.
That's, by the way, that's the trick. If your camera goes out of focus, put your palm on it and then slide sideways, and it will refocus.
I have a webcam settings that locks the focus in for me, so it's great. It's always selecting the right thing. Its autofocus is turned off. So that way I can do this, and it's fuzzy. Yep.
We already have
cool
questions.
Let's introduce ourselves and stuff.
Let's do the whole introduction thing, eh?
Yeah, let's get started.
Do's and don'ts quickly. Be nice, respectful, constructive whilst interacting in the YouTube chat. Don't post anything adult content or offensive. Don't advertise, promote anything. Don't spam. Same thing again. We get your questions. If you want to clarify your question, please do that. We obviously understand that. But just try to get your question right the first time. And then harassment of any kind is not tolerated, and we'll share our ban list. So don't do that. And do have a good time. That's the main thing, right?
Indeed.
My name's Simon Lightfoot, Flutter community leader and CTO at Dev Angels London. And you can follow me on Twitter at Dev Angels London.
Scott Stahl, I am community leader. Also, I am a organizer of GDG Cleveland. I do a bunch of other stuff you really don't want to know about and rescue big black dogs. Randall.
And I'm Randall Schwartz. I'm a Dart and Flutter Google developer expert, and I'm also the question magician. I'll be watching the chat room for questions that are coming in live. And if you're not live, you're listening to this on a tape show. Thank you for being on a tape show, but you really ought to see us live. It's a lot more fun because you can get your questions answered almost immediately sometimes, depending on how long the queue is.
Real time.
And make fun of us. That's always really good. And we have a great regular crowd shuffling in as always. And but you're more than welcome to join us. So please do that for next week's show in 168 hours if you're not already here.
It's funny. Somebody's asking about ChatGPT, and we were just talking about that in the setup of the show.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Yeah.
I think it gives better Stack Overflow answers than Randall, but
hey. I resemble that remark. Yes.
we appreciate your appreciation.
Yeah.
Yes, there we go.
We do have to put in a reasonable amount of time every week to make this show happen, and I'm glad that I have such a wonderful co-host to do this, and actually more producers than I am. I'm kind of the junior seat on the show, but
it's the bouncing puppy.
What's bouncing puppy?
Noel is the bouncing puppy. She's full of energy and bounces around.
Oh, okay, very good. Oh, yes, in the chat room. Yeah, didn't notice. Cool.
I hear me. Oh ha ha, Matt. Oh ha ha. We don't do that here.
Yeah, that's the wrong show.
The wrong show.
You're looking for NPM. You're looking for NPM Freaky Fridays.
Oh, okay.
I think that's on in a couple days. What?
We can actually talk about.
Okay. This is an actual question.
Rephrase your question, Matt, and post it in the chat. And we'll get to that for sure.
Yeah.
That's going to be an interesting one, actually. For sure.
Cool.
All right. I mean, we can chat all day. Some interesting stuff.
I forgot, put Q in front of your questions to get into the question queue. Remember that. Uh-huh. That's important phrase to remember. Yes.
Indeed.
Okay.
All right. I mean, we'll just jump straight in, I think. And I don't know if we've got anything to add at the moment. It's been quite busy. Question: Dart server. Why caching Redis so important in server management? How can one perform efficient caching? Okay, so let's break this down here for a second. So caching is always important because, well, we'll put it this way: like let's say you have 10 people visit your site in quick succession. You don't want to do 10 queries to the database for the same content when it can be available in memory to deliver immediately to each of your clients, each of the requests coming in, right? So in that sense, cache is important to speed up your interactions. Now, you can definitely build a server without any layer of caching, right? But the problem is you get into a situation where if you do single instance, that's not a problem. As soon as you start having multiple instances of your backend, they all need to share something in common normally, right? Like, I don't know, like the current list of logged in users or something. Maybe that's in memory, so it's there available, so that each request that comes in can check against that list to see if it's the valid session, or I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. I would say session related variables need to be shared, because obviously a session is going to have local information in it.
I mean, there's plenty of other reasons why you might want to cache something, but a lot of the time, caching is the same as like what you might do in terms of a Flutter app, where you set up a future, and then you don't call that future in every build, and instead you put the future in your init state and store it, and then use that variable inside your build. That is caching in a sense, right? Like you're storing you're storing the future so that you can continue using multiple times later, right? And in effect, it's the same thing. So when it comes to caching on the server side, a lot of the time you put an entire caching layer in front of your database, because a lot of the times, a lot of the database queries can be quite heavy or quite complex, like join multiple tables together and lots of other complex things. And when you do that, when you hit the database server, which is essentially one big server, it doesn't scale that way. It doesn't scale horizontally, it scales vertically a lot of the time. And in that situation, hitting the database directly lots and lots of times, it can slow everything down. So can slow the database server down a lot and use a lot of memory. So and that cache in front can relieve pressure. But again, not required for a lot of things. And I build it without the cache first. Like we say about the same as programming, pre-optimization is the root of all evil, right? It's that kind of thing of, if you optimize too early, like, once you know how you're building your system and you can architect a cache into it, then you've planned for it, right? But don't just start throwing caches in there and caching everything just because you can, right? Just because you might make it faster, right? Build it first and then work out those things. Because at the end of the day you may not get the traffic to that endpoint or to those services or whatever that would add up to what you need. So anyway, all right, moving on, I guess.
Yeah, please.
Just as one can get the progress of a file download or upload, is it possible to get the progress of other forms of HTTP requests other than uploading and downloading? Well, yes, but I'm not sure why you'd want to. I mean, like you can monitor the bytes of a stream, and HTTP requests are just streams of bytes going in and out, right? And so you could definitely monitor the progress of them, but I don't know why you would want to, because most HTTP requests should be small, very, very small. If you're doing HTTP requests where you're downloading megabytes of JSON, you can monitor the progress of it, I guess.
Except you still have to then have an idea of what is the ultimate length. So if it's not sending a content length, for example, which is perfectly legal.
It should always, the server should always send that, yeah. I mean,
but it doesn't have to. It's not part of the requirement.
It doesn't have to, but that's down to your APIs that you're building, right?
Yeah.
So what we're talking about there, is it Mugusto? Sorry, Magust. Anyway, the problem is lots of, when you just send data back from a server, like you send a string back, it doesn't send the length of that; it just sends the data, and that's I've forgotten the name of that. This type of packing. Anyway, it streams the data, so not great for trying to track progress because you don't know how long it is going to be, how big it's going to be.
Right.
Oh, another one. It's getting all the questions in. Get your questions in early. This is what we say. So get all these answers.
Yep. Want to efficiently save files.
I mean, efficiently.
I mean, you were saying saving files, so I wouldn't use Supabase or Postgres.
Yeah.
Files go in the file system. In file storage.
Yeah. It's not data. It's not data for a database.
So let me give you a good example here. What you could do, and it depends on how you're running your server code. If you're just running your server code, like Dart run, right, or something, that's not a great way of doing that. But you can set up like a system service. It can just write to the local file system. Done. But the problem here is if the server goes offline, or if you want to like scale, like not all the nodes have access to the same file system. That's why you use cloud storage. So a lot of the time you have a separate storage that all the nodes can access to read and write files from. And you talk about efficiently. Efficiently has levels, right? Like efficiently is how you do it, right? Not For example, let me explain an example. You're talking about efficiently saving files. I assume you mean efficiently storing files on the server side. So one of the problems that most people have when they do these APIs is they make an API endpoint that is like a put request. You do a put and you send it the data, like let's say update avatar, right? So you do put and you send it to /user update avatar, whatever, and you send your JPEG data or your whatever it is. Now, the problem with this is your web server receives all those bytes for the JPEG. Those bytes for the JPEG, then you collect them either in memory all at once as part of the request, and then you store it to disk. Now, if someone was to send you a gigabyte file, you've got a problem because now you've got to store a whole gigabyte in RAM or even on disk as you go. I mean, this is where efficiency comes in as a problem. So first of all, you can not upfront the content length of the send, and you can restrict that. So as the actual input of the stream comes in, if it reaches a certain limit, you just cut off the connection, right? There's actually some packages on the shelf for that. That protects your server from that side of it. The other side is don't do that in the first place. So what you can actually do is you make a request to the server and you ask it to give you what's called a signed URL, right? This is a bucket signed URL, and it's where the server signs saying that this person is going to be given a URL where they can upload to the bucket, but they can only upload this file size, this file type, and the data with this hash, for example, right? So that you basically, in the request that you send to your server, you send those bits of information, the content type, the hash, the MD5 hash, and the whatever it is. Then it sends back a URL, and then you post to that URL. In doing so, you're sending it straight to Google Cloud Bucket. So it never goes through your server, and you don't have to deal with uploads. That's the better way of doing it, right? And that is efficient because it goes straight into the storage from the user. And then when you retrieve it from the storage, you're getting it straight from the storage. So it all around makes better sense. But yeah, these things can be complicated. I need to go look at signed URLs. It's on AWS and on Google, and probably other services. But yeah,
I'm sure they all want to compete with Google anyway, so they probably all have to have it now.
Right, go on.
Yep.
Someone else. I'll keep talking otherwise.
Flutter's lifecycle methods. I can't. The widgets have life cycles.
Well, the app also has
was it
life
Craig
cycles.
or?
So there's
Well,
app
I'm
and
trying to think.
widget.
Was it Craig or was it Philip?
Craig did
a video
one
on that.
Vikings. Craig did one on Vikings. On life
Okay,
cycle.
well, that was a talk. I think somebody also did a video. But yeah, if you go to Flutter Vikings, you can probably catch the video from Craig Lebenz from Flutter Team's DevRel doing a talk on this. Now, it's not the same as if what you're thinking about Android lifecycle with on start, on stop, on resume, etc. But there are life cycles. It's a little bit. I don't think it's more complicated. I just think it's not as straightforward.
There are app life cycles too, which you can look at with the thing Simon just brought up. Simon, talk about that.
So yeah, widgets binding them server. It's the example here is sorry. The example here, where is it? It's gonna be the one taste there. Here you go. You add on your state, you add with widgets binding observer. And then in your init state, you can add an observer, and then in your dispose, you can remove it, and then you get these callbacks. Did app like lifecycle state change, and that tells you when your app was resumed from the background, for example. But and the observer itself actually has all these methods, right? So you can actually see did the locale change, did the metrics change, did the platform brightness, memory pressure, pop her out, push her out, whatever it might be, you know. There's a bunch of stuff here. And, this is great, but the resume is basically the only one I actually use out of all of these mainly. And if I do that, it's at the top level, right? I don't think there's much room for lifecycle methods. The lifecycle methods you're thinking of would be on state. And on the state widget, it does have, each widget has a lifecycle. And obviously that trickles down. So you get like init state, did change dependencies, is it activate, build, deactivate, dispose. There's it is written up on the Flutter website.
Yep, everything's written up on the Flutter website.
It is really good documentation.
Very good documentation. Extremely.
Oh, our good friend Mike is here. Mike
Hey.
says,
Who's
is there a
this guy?
way? Yeah, who's this? Is there a way for a Dart program to ask which version of Dart it was compiled with? Same with Flutter.
In other words, is that
same with
information
Flutter.
put somewhere?
Introspect with framework version it was compiled with. If not, why they don't edit. You can get this. And it's
It was in PubSpec
Dart,
YAML.
It's sent through as a Dart define. And I forget the names. There's some reserved names. I think the platform package actually has some getters for this.
They're like the VM dot ones, right? VM dot this and VM dot debugging and
VM product, I think it is, or something like that.
Yeah. Secret magic handshakes behind the scenes to help you break your program more easily because you now know that too much about you're doing too much navel gazing. Yeah,
there is a hang on, I'll just see if I can find it. Pretty sure the platform class, it might be an external platform class,
I don't remember. I know I've seen him occasionally, and I know I've talked with smart people that know them.
Well, let's just hang on. Does this flip over? Oh, let's do that. So yeah, apparently there is a platform version which gives you the current Dart version.
Awesome.
Yeah, that answers your question. Ask which Dart it was compiled with, right? The version of the Dart runtime. This is platform.version. So there you go. That's nice. As a string, it's in 7-bit format. But this actually gets injected in through a Dart define, and there's I think it's VM_product. Sure, we could go hunting. Actually, should we go hunting? How many questions do we have? Let's just see if we can do this. Hang on, let's get up.
We're still a little light on questions. We're still welcoming many more questions.
Well, and while Simon's researching that, I just wanted to say, another week, another how do I do SEO in Flutter question. Step 1, don't.
Yeah.
Don't make your whole website with Flutter. Flutter is for web apps.
Go use so what was I saying? Go use Jasper or one of these other ones that's all done in Dart.
Yeah, Jasper. Now Jasper's really cool. And Jasper is basically I'll look that up right now. Jasper's technically a plugin, I think, but it's really a whole different way of it's not now.
Just a Dart package. Standard Dart.
Okay, so it's a Dart package.
It doesn't use Flutter at all. But it behaves like Flutter, if that kind of makes sense.
Is that the right one?
One time I want.
Oh, dead air. Can't have dead air.
No.
Simon and I are both staring at things, confused.
Yes. And I'm just sitting here watching the chat. That's all I get to do. It's kind of fun. I answer things occasionally, though.
Well, sorry. Let's bring this up here. I was just looking at VM. I thought it was VM_product. I just searched the
source code.
I was hoping it might just pop up, but
yeah.
Stop being lazy, Mike.
Yeah. Tell us. Mike, you answer it. Oh, sorry.
What's going on? What have we missed?
I don't want to add. No, what'd you do? I don't want to add a package to find out what version.
Oh, okay.
So
we just
stop
said
being lazy, Mike.
Yeah,
but what we just showed was built in, right? That's platform, which is the Dart platform class.
Core.
Right?
It's core.
Part of core.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about which, I should be able to bring up the source code to that, right? And then that should, why don't we try that? Before we move on to the next question, let's just give it one last go here and just see.
All right, here we go.
If we search for, if we do T and then do platform.
You're going to need to go one bigger. on your
Yeah.
browser.
Let me just get a couple of things up here.
Embiggen. Or as they now say, enhance.
Enhance. Yes, indeed.
Enhance grid 27 through 35.
Oh, I love those things. Like, oh look, so here's unscore platform version. Oh, that's nice. So I'm guessing unscore platform is the internal.
Okay. Yeah.
Where the hell is that?
Number of processors. Ooh, you can get number of processors. That's great for.
Yeah, this is going to be. I know what this is going to be. It's going to be one of those
working.
Platform implementation. Here we go. Unscore platform.
Yeah.
Version. I'm kind of curious here. Version. Oh look. Version. So that's actually external static. So that's actually coming from this C++ file here. So here we should have unscore version. Start version string from the API.
Turtles all the way down. Yes.
Indeed. So yeah, in short, to answer your question, you can actually get it from platform, version, and it will go get it from the runtime interface. But I know there's ways of getting some extra parameters. And what really bugs me actually, this is not the first time it's happened. There's no way of like listing Dart defines, right? Because once you've gone through compilation, they're dropped on the floor. They're not needed, right? That's right. Why the string dot from environment that gets the Dart define is
const.
Only picks up. Yeah, it has to be const, right? Because it picks it up during compilation time. So there's no such thing as like list Dart defines. And I kind of want a simple. I feel like there should be a simple way of saying, like, just debug dump the Dart defines that the Dart environment was executed. Yeah, compiled with or whatever. So.
Right.
It would be a lot easier when trying to figure these things out.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, move on. I vote to move on.
AAA says, if a package has a dependency like hydrated block has Hive, I am also, and I'm using Hive, does that mean there are two separate instances of Hive in my app? And does it affect the app installation size? So, first of all,
good question.
It's only including the code for Hive once, and it shouldn't affect your installation size. So that's the first thing. I say, installation size is in like the deployed size. However,
right.
If that hydrated block starts up its own Hive, I guess with its own name for its own database, then yes, it's going to be running a separate database on disk and have two separate instances. I don't know enough about it. It's possible that hydrated block does that.
It's also possible that you in your code are using different parts of Hive than hydrated block is. And because of tree shaking, now parts of it don't get to go away because there's some other part that's using more of Hive, a different part of Hive.
I will say that
it'll be minor.
I was going to say that is correct, but also that is probably a minor overlap. And not gonna affect your installation size. Not to the.
If you're worried about that, you're in the wrong business.
Here's an extra 500 bytes. Good luck.
Ooh, no, 500. I gotta optimize.
Right, we're going to skip the next one just for a second. Yeah. Matthew said, I need to integrate with a headless CMS story block that only has an NPM package for their bridge. I found the JS package on pub, but I'm trying to figure out how to actually import the package. I am going to show you your dream right now.
Do we need wavy visions like
what was that? What was it? Yeah, no. What was the
Wayne's World?
Wayne's World. Old. Oh my god!
I'm dating myself.
Go.
What was that thing with the camera just like zoomed in? No.
Yes. Unnecessary zoom.
Unnecessary zoom. That was it. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Where was I? Yeah, so in Dart,
a friend of mine was on the pitcher's mound in 100-degree heat one time, looked over at me and said, "Let me go."
So there's actually a it's called JS. No, it's not called JS. Java? JavaScript? No.
He lies.
He thinks
I know it's in here. Oh my goodness! Come on! Why is it not? Why is it
not in the SDK? It's not in the SDK directory.
It's definitely. It's a Dart repo.
Wow.
Hang on.
Hang on. It'll come to him. Meanwhile, we're still getting good questions in. Just hang in for a few minutes, and your questions will be answered.
I'm going to find this because this is going to bug the hell out of me other way.
We're about 12 questions deep ahead of this question, so not bad yet for this time.
I knew it is there. I knew it.
Simon's starting to run behind.
Okay.
You know, right, James?
You're getting rusty there. Yeah, I'm getting rusty. I'm getting old, man. Okay, so here we go. I found it. I found it. So it's called. It's the reason why it's disappeared is because they archived it just a couple of days ago. It's not my fault. However, man. This is still valid. So JS facade generator.
He's 36 hours behind the times. What do you want?
I will pop that in the chat for everyone. So basically in here, look, for how to write interrupt packages, use this, please visit this. I mean, it's not wrong, but however, this generates a bunch of stuff for you. So I'm not sure why I would not use this, to be honest, because it generates exactly the same outputs. But so I'm kind of interested in what they're actually, the JS interrupt, sure. This is the standard stuff. JS on the pub site, API reference for JS, sure. So you've got the JS package, right, which lets you do essentially markup libraries. So this actually will import. I think it explains it here. There's actually it's a good example of namespace. Is this coming up? I mean, make it bigger.
Since I'm clearly not wanted on camera, I'm going to go refill my glass.
Okay. Thanks, Scott. More room for me on the screen. No, it's the same amount of room.
I was trying to I thought there was a nice example here, but basically what this is doing is saying Google Maps dot map with a capital M. That's the import class name, and then the map is the constructor. But this is how you do it. You essentially declare your classes with external and the JS import tag, and then it will actually let you access these things from Dart, and it will call out to the JavaScript stuff. So it tells you here, look, new. So here's where you'd be in JavaScript, new Google Maps map location, right?
Right.
So this is the packet. This is showing you how you do this namespace stuff, and you can just use external. Now, there is some wrapping that you might need to do, in which case the JS and JS util packages inbuilt give you some functions. So in here, I don't know why it takes forever to load at the moment. So JS util has call constructor, call method, datify. There's a bunch of little helper methods, and the one I want is not there, of course. Anyway, so there's a bunch of helper things to interrupt with JS, and then of course in here, there you go, allow interrupt. And what this allows you to do is essentially wrap a function and pass that function pass the response of this to JavaScript. So then JavaScript can call back into your Dart code. So this is if you need a callback, right? And that's the function used. There's also capture this, which basically makes this the first argue pass to the JavaScript function or whatever, which may be helpful in certain circumstances. But for the most part, the JS package and the JS inbuilt JS stuff will do what you need to do. Looks like they've got a chart.js Dart API example, intent example. I have no idea.
Cool. And click for a second on packages that depend on JS. I want to see kind of how widespread it actually is being used.
More packages that depend on JS.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it. Pub just seems to be really slow the last week. I don't know what's going on. Every time it tries to resolve, I think it just, I don't know. Anyway,
just look at the count down below. Yeah.
345 packages.
Wow. Okay. So this is a popular thing to do. There are a lot of great stuff. There's a lot of great things that are JS only, and it's great to be able to use that in your Flutter web app.
Yeah, I mean,
having an interrupt.
We've used it on a few things, like we were doing some payments with Stripe before, and various other things where you just use the JS package. Now, what's really nice about the facade generator is this takes a TypeScript definition file, and then it generates exactly the correct Dart facade. That's all using all those @JS and all those things you just saw me talk about, and it generates those for you, which is really nice. But most JavaScript npm packages actually have TypeScript types, and in npm you can do @type/ and whatever it is. So I don't know. Let's go npm npm.com. And then
I'm going to speculate. Right. I bet it was archived because they're planning on a macro version coming out soon.
So let's say there you go. So let's say there's a Stripe JS package here. You'll also find that there's like @Stripe packages and so on. So this is actually normally the TypeScript. This is ES module. So I don't know. I have to have a look. But there's also like /types, Node, Lodash, React, whatever the thing is, right? Like there's a bunch of packages, Express, right? And what this is the TypeScript types for the Express JS package. And in fact, this guy here has where is it now? In types here, you'll find a list of every single one of the packages that have custom TypeScript types.
Wow,
which is really handy. And there's just hundreds of these things. So,
yeah.
You probably definitely find a package that you need, and this is definitively typed. Repository for high quality TypeScript type definitions.
Yep.
So that can be handy. So hopefully that puts you in the right place. And we'll move on to the next question.
I do want to bring up an important point, and that is that we're not getting paid while we're on the show, and Christmas is coming up.
Yes.
So JP Morgan Chase wants my money. So we can't be out here all day.
Right.
All right. Okay.
Oh,
do you want me to take this one?
Go for it. I don't know. What is it?
Why is a Flutter app on macOS full screen mode lagging when the user begins to use animations? One of two reasons. One is, people who know me know this is coming. Compared to Windows machines, Macs really are underpowered hardware. That's just a fact. Now, number two is when you're doing animations, you have to be careful how you're doing them because animations are expensive. Depending on how complex you're getting, if you have animations with nested moving parts, this could be a problem. If you're doing animations where you're creating 50, 100 instances of the same object, animating at different stages in its life, like if a circle's doing this, you create 100 different instances of them and they're all trying to go. That's going to increase your overhead, but really you have to keep in mind the hardware that you're releasing on, and a lot of these Macs are running on i3s or i5s. Okay, most Windows users are running at least i5, i7. I'm running an i9. So you kind of got to, play to your released platform. And I mean, that's not really an insult because there are, we're also sometimes looking at releasing to an iPhone 6, or an older Android device. So
I'll caveat this that there's no there's well, everything that Scott said is definitely correct, right? Like, first of all, but also like we shouldn't be seeing, like with basic animations, you shouldn't be seeing any lag, right?
Not with basic ones, right?
No, with basic ones. Now, if you are seeing lag with your basic animations, you got to remember that the amount of data that you're moving on a desktop computer is a lot larger than mobile, right? A lot of the time. Now, even with the high resolution displays, not so much. It's a bit timey-wimey, wiggly wonky, right? In terms of like, there's different areas where optimizations are done. However, what you're probably experiencing is, are you on an M1 device? because on an M1 device, there's 2 caveats. Make sure you're compiling in ARM, because if you're not compiling in ARM, your code is compiling for x86, and then it's going through what the... Oh, come on, guys, help me out here. What's the M1?
Rosetta Stone? Rosetta?
Silicon?
Yeah, Rosetta.
Nope,
Rosetta.
wrong one.
Yeah,
So your app would be passing through Rosetta, which converts the x86 machine code to ARM at runtime. So that can add some issues, some performance degradations there.
You
But
think?
also-
Yeah.
What, someone else saying that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Paco saying that. Yeah. The other side of this is also the fact that Flutter is not yet completely optimized for Metal, right? It will compile on Metal and will work for Metal, it's not completely optimized. So the first times you get a bit of janky when it's compiling the shaders. Now the next time you do the same animation, it should not lag, right? It's lagging because it's compiling the shaders as it does the animation, for example, or just before. So you might get some intermittent lag. Now, the interesting thing about this is if that's is that with Impeller, when Impeller comes out, that will go away because the system, the whole rendering pipeline is changing. I won't go into the details of that. But so the idea is that's going to resolve this whole sort of shader problem that we're having at the moment. Now, I don't know. I don't do Mac like desktop apps, and I couldn't speak to that. And I would suggest you could reach out to some of the people that have and that are. That includes our good friend Groove and Chip on Twitter. He's been doing the macOS UI and does macOS desktop apps. Yeah, I mean, there's probably a few things that to do with full screen, but I can't see animations being all too much. But also, it's very, I wouldn't say if you're seeing lag because you're animating, like fading in an entire screen, like when you go full screen, for example. I mean, you're changing every pixel of the entire screen multiple times a second. You need to make sure your app is efficient, right? This is any app, you know. So, yeah, I don't know. There's lots of things in short.
I would add, go on to the Flutter Discord, the official Flutter Discord, and there's a macOS channel there, and there are some very smart people that hang out there. So ask this question there, and you'll get a much more focused answer than what we can give being generalists here.
Yeah, for sure. And then also there's the other thing. This is they might go, oh, that's a bug. It shouldn't be doing that. Please file an issue ticket, right?
Yeah, indeed.
And boom, you can file an issue ticket, show with a little bit of example code, and they'll want that all the more. All right.
Yep.
I guess we'll carry
Okay,
on.
one quick thing about a chat thing that we're doing right here. No, James, not on Linux. That's what we were talking about. Ahaha. HP Reverb G2, what we're talking about in the chat. Also, if you happen to do VR, get rid of this stupid clip, use a guitar capo. $10, great investment. Won't rip out. All right, next.
Capo.
I guess you're chatting in the chat.
Are we
okay,
bouncing
right.
around?
Anyway.
No, I think your connection might be. Anyway, RVB.
Well, no, it
Right.
looks like we're chatting. Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
Drawbacks of Flutter versus native and drawbacks of Flutter versus React Native. I need this for my documentation and benefits. Flutter versus native and drawbacks of Flutter versus React.
This
Well,
might be a question
I can
for
speak to React Native.
okay.
Flutter versus React Native, the main thing with React Native is you're dependent on the underlying OS's UI components. Whereas Flutter, you're not dependent on anything. As we had mentioned, I can't even remember where, as was mentioned recently, there is a danger using Flutter for iOS that if iOS doesn't update on its UI widgets, your Flutter one will still look like the version back because you're writing your own, you're not borrowing them. Whereas React Native would, as long as it doesn't break your React Native app, then your React Native app will look current. But it's being dependent on them. Go ahead.
I would say that there's a converse point to that question where suddenly your app breaks because the UI suddenly changed because the operating system changed the UI, right? So there's another converse point of that is that most of the time most apps don't use the native widgets anyway because they're interested in their own stylization or their own thing. I mean, they don't want plain like gray button from Windows 95, right?
Right. Okay. But you can, how hard is that to do on iOS though? I've never done straight iOS, and I'm not sure if people are using all Cupertino elements or if they're doing what they call brand first UI, which is basically all custom stuff.
A lot of the time it's all custom stuff.
It is okay on iOS. It is.
You know, I mean, there are certain patterns that you behave, but that's just a pattern, right? You can do that in any set of widgets.
Right.
Anyway, I mean, you talk about drawbacks. It's complicated because, like, to be honest, you're asking the wrong people. Like, first of all, like, we're gonna no. What I mean by that is, what I'm trying to get at is, like, the thing.
Yeah, I would love to have Stacey Davino on for this. Because she and I were having a conversation like this when we were out at GDG Connect recently, and we both, Stacey and I both came down on the opinion that each tool has its job.
Yeah.
Drawbacks from Flutter versus native. The thing is, like, anything you can do in native. Here's the thing, right? Flutter is a superset of native, right? Meaning that you could do everything you can do in native, but still in the Flutter app. So in that respect, there's no drawbacks. Come, you're bringing in, Scott. What do you mean?
Yeah, sorry, my internet's been having issues, but there are certain things you want to do in native because of graphics performance. Yes, at times. I thought there were.
Like what? I'm trying to think of anything.
Well, gaming.
But that's
mainly
not
games.
an app. Yeah, but that's
games an app.
No.
Although if it's doing
Flutter
3D, it's in a completely different class.
Yeah, right. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, but you could just go do 2D games in Flutter, no problem, right? Like, you're not going to have any performance problems. Same goes for like, like as we said, like, you go make a 3D game, you're going to use OpenGL or whatever, and you're going to or Unity or some other sort of system. It's not designed for that, right?
And that's there you go. Is that's one of the drawbacks is 3D. Randall,
I was just going to say Matthew's saying some really great stuff in the chat room here.
Okay. And by the way, RVB, I don't know how you pronounce it. Don't go away, because I have not forgotten about that YouTube comment exchange we had, and we might need to have you on the show.
Yeah.
Right. Hang on. Yeah, he says, I've used both Flutter and React Native. If you go the React Native route, do not use Expo. It makes it easier to get started. Deal with vendor lock-in, injected, and Expo is painful. That's a nice tip. Google basically took React Native, stole the good parts, and cleaned most of the jank up. The developer experience for Flutter is so much better. And the React Native ecosystem is nice because of NPM, but you also quickly run into dependency hell.
And another good point there is with React Native, React Native compiles to interpreted code, doesn't it? Whereas Flutter's, of course, compiling.
React Native is just JavaScript, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, sorry. So
there's a performance benefit.
Yeah, you have JavaScript in there still.
Yeah, no bridge.
Anyway, let's. There's also a performance. But I mean, we talk about all the pros and the reason why Flutter is better, right? But you do talk about specific and drawbacks.
I sort of feel like I cheated with my career then, because the very first mobile I ever did was Flutter. And I don't know the pain that all these other people went through. I just am happy it didn't happen to me.
I just like to point out, I'm sorry, go ahead if you're still on the question.
No, I was just going to say, did I read the question wrong? I thought he was asking specifically about the drawbacks. And you're saying that if it was just a straight comparison, and we could talk about the pros of Flutter all day long. I mean, that's why we're doing Flutter, right? I mean,
right.
Yeah. I mean, we think Flutter's got more pros than cons as opposed to the other frameworks, but nothing's perfect.
Yeah. I think and I was going to say, things are always. The nice thing about Flutter is I feel like it does progress a lot quicker, and there seems to be, I don't know.
At an insane rate, actually.
Yeah,
making it impossible to keep up with, even though I'm spending half of my day just keeping up on what's happening, because it's
Flutter has always changed quickly, but it's gotten insane. There's nobody who can keep up with it all.
No, but you say, like, we say keeping up, but it's like like this it's stable, right? I mean, like nothing's, it's not changing
Yeah.
underneath.
Well,
all the
okay,
time,
no,
so we
yeah,
can do that.
you're
No.
talking about the SDK. I'm talking about the whole community and the plugins and packages that are solving
Well,
this
that's because
problem,
it's a
that
growth
problem.
market, right? It's a growth market. It's going to
Yeah.
have a lot of changes. Anyway,
Indeed.
we'll
Yeah.
move on. I was going to say, like, we're not going to rehash. We can't rehash in a few minutes what
Right.
lots of people have done, like, huge videos on. So go look around.
Yeah.
You'll find lots of comparison videos from people from React world and people from the Flutter world and all sorts, and see all the different viewpoints and get your own opinion from that. That's what I'd say.
Right.
Just one thing over there. Look him up on YouTube, because I had a work problem regarding GoRouter, and RVB did the video that helped fix my
Cool.
work problem.
Awesome. Good job, sir.
Next question.
Yes.
Aha.
Oh, this is interesting.
Oh, this is always fun. I have been waiting for this one. I have actually several screen
Ask
shares.
the question out loud. Ask it. Go on.
I want to have some clarification regarding various nullable operators in
Dot
Dart.
or bang dot.
Yep. Now, one of the places that you're going to want to go for a lot of
Zoom.
this is
Zoom.
ancient. I'm getting there, impatient one. Seth Ladd. Oh my God. Has he still with the team, or has he been gone? How long?
On for a while.
Seth wrote this in 2015, and it is still to this day the very top bookmark in my Dart folder, because it explains all of this quite well. And Seth Ladd, again, used to be product manager for Dart.
Okay.
So null-aware operators.
I mean, none of the null-aware operators in Dart. That wasn't null safe in 2015, was it?
No.
No, but it's not the null safety so much.
No, this must have been during the development cycle of adding.
This won't have bang dot, for example.
No, this won't have bang dot. This is
right.
Just
it doesn't have everything, but it's
There's actually.
It's good to get started.
Bang dot. Yeah, no, it doesn't have bang dot. No, that's what I was saying. It's way before. However, there is the Dart language tool.
Yeah, bang dot is null safety, whereas
look, that's
anyway,
they're all about nulls.
There is actually
it's all about nulls.
Yeah.
There is actually a whole section inside the language tour, isn't there, for null safety?
The tour, yeah.
So we're not really answering the question.
Yeah, we are.
Okay. First of all, bang dot, if I'm understanding it correctly, is going to be saying the last example, y equals x bang dot name. What you're doing there is x is nullable, but you're guaranteeing to the compiler that at this point, x will not be null, and that you want to access the name property of that x and assign that to y.
Yeah.
Now, if you do that and x is null at this time,
ouch,
you're going to get a null check problem.
Ouch. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Now, x dot y equals question mark dot name. God, I haven't used that hardly at all. Simon's using it constantly, though. I do believe that if x is not null, then call the function name.
Call the method name.
The method. Yeah, call the method name
if x is not null.
of the object x. If x is not null.
Wait, stop. Hang on. Wait, what is this? You got question mark dot, which just says if x is not null, call in this case, name. read the value of name. It's not call, it's not function, but read the value of name.
It might be a function. It's a getter. It's a getter. It could be anything.
Well, that's not necessarily a function.
Well, anyway, do call something or go get something on name, but the question mark is it null?
Can I finish? Right.
No.
The point here is y equals the y equals x question mark dot name here. So the question mark dot name essentially means get the value, proceed on with the dot notation if the value is not null. Otherwise, return null and don't proceed.
Right. The whole thing is null.
It's what do you call null? You almost think of it as like a short circuit for null. So it means you could do a chain of those, right? So you can have like x:\name: $2string length, whatever, and it wouldn't call length because name is null, and it wouldn't call name because x is null. So it shortcuts it. Where the bang operator is basically saying you will treat this as if it's not null at this point inside my program, and it can potentially throw or blow up. Now,
if it is null, then that's my problem. I messed up.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is, don't use null, and you won't have to use either of these. As another solution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes.
That's something I always say, and that it's one of those things where people don't want to do what I like to do just because of tradition, but I've never seen anybody argue against it. Whereas Firebase auth, everything is dependent on whether or not the auth user is null. If the auth user is not null, then they're logged in. Whereas if you're going to do the don't make it null approach, you have to make a user called default user and then check to see if the name is default user, in which case then you're logged out. So
you can do all that, right? But the reason why they chose to do it that way, I would assume, is because they have an API that's compatible with lots of different languages and systems, right? And they want to keep it consistent. Anyway, moving on. Next question. Death God says, "Oh, I wonder if that's in relation to Bleach." Death Gods. Anyway, how to create a slidable scale in Flutter that upon sliding increases value.
Ooh, those are fun.
Got that one. That's another one. Okay. Whoop, wrong one.
No.
There we go.
Slider.
Now, not only do we have slider that will change, one of the things, increases value. For some reason, I was thinking that you said increases range, Death God, in which case we would use the range slider. So you have two great choices here. Each comes with a nice, easy to use video.
Yes.
I'll put both those in the chat.
And examples.
But it makes life really, really easy. And then I will pull this down here and we can talk about it.
Cool.
Those are in the chat.
I mean, is there much to talk about? Slider.
Those should be exactly what you need. And if they don't look like what you want, feel free to copy the class and change it around.
For almost every core widget, you're able to Google Flutter widget name tutorial, and you'll find something. Trust me.
Or widget of the week
out there. Widget of the week's a good place to get them, but really there's
Google widget of the week. And
yes, that's a great place to get things. I agreed with you. Yes, but I also said Google for other versions of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I was saying use Google to get to widget of the week. But anyway, moving on.
Okay.
There was a video I saw recently where this guy actually made a 3.5 hour or 4 hour video, and he shows every single widget in Flutter and how to.
That's being developed. That's rolling out Ravon. Something.
They show it for 3 seconds a piece.
No.
Every video is like a minute.
I saw it.
Yeah. And it's running through them. It's not done yet. It's up to like the letter L or something.
Oh,
so
it's up to the L.
Pulling them out. Yeah.
I'm gonna find it.
Yeah, throw that in there.
Of course, he declares it's every widget in Flutter, but that's not true. I make widgets every day that he's not showing. So
anyway,
he means in the SDK.
So just clarifying this point before we move on to the next one. Yeah, so this is the type of slider you're probably talking about, right? Where you just drag one and the number changes. You don't have to have this pop up. There's lots of options about how you like change the colors of the track. That's the thing that the thumb runs along. This is the thumb. And if it's active or inactive, you get this slider themes. There's a bunch of like parameters. Adaptive, this constructor here will give you a Cupertino-based slider on iOS or an Android-based slider on Android or Material as well. But yeah, for the most part, you can set your minimum, maximum, and then you get your on change event with on change start and end when you start and end it in case you want to like stop updates whilst you're doing a drag or something. And then the division scale as well. So there's a bunch of options around this, but yeah.
But I will say, if you add to that query that I gave a moment ago, the word custom paint or custom painter. Somebody did a nice 90-minute video on building a slider up from components using custom paint, talking about the gestures and everything. So really in-depth stuff about how you can have any UI you want. It's just a matter of getting good with things like custom painter and gesture detector and math, sine and cosine.
Yeah,
you know?
I did. In fact, if you're interested in that kind of thing, I did this on my gists. In fact, I'll just dig it out now. On my gists, I did a rubber band slider. That's it. Every widget in Flutter explained by Flutter map. That's the video.
Yeah, awesome stuff.
Hang on, let's see if I can find this because it's funny.
Yeah.
Here we go. I talked about this before. I'll pop it in the chat. So there's this here rubber range slider, and it's basically this dribble. So you can actually see this.
Oh, nice.
Apparently, there's part 1 and part 2 of this.
Yeah, that's what we were just saying. But yeah, so this is like a rubber range slider bar, and this is the entire thing. Did this in 2019, so you might need to update the code. I don't know. Well, but yeah, it uses a render box and does all the touch interaction all inside a render box. Basically, everything is done inside of begin tracking, continue tracking, end tracking, painting. Who knows? It's all in there. Have fun.
Yeah. There's some awesome stuff out there, and yes, from the chat room, hardcore custom painting. Yes, James, it is. But getting good at that can make you valuable to at least the open source community, if not your next employer.
When you start going down the route, there's certain things that you want to do. That a good example is that one there, like that rubber band widget. I need to draw this custom rubber band. I need to position these widgets, which are the thumbs, right, across the appropriate place inside this like bending line. Now, all that calculation is fine, but you need to know where it's positioned on the screen, how it's positioned on the screen. Suddenly, like you end up with a really complex UI structure to do this simple thing. And it's also less optimal because now when I need to like drag them around, I'm having to rebuild its widgets, reposition them all, relay them out, re-render them. Like when all of that can be condensed down into a render object. So it's all about finding the correct optimization points, right? And there's several cases where you'll see inside of Flutter itself, it still uses render boxes for a lot of that stuff, right? But again, there's no harm in doing that with widgets. I think I just chose it as an example, use a render box example. That's all I did. Anyway, moving on. AAA.
Yeah, I was looking at this. How to upload multiple images, minimum 10 to an S3 bucket, sending them with a request, but it has a 6 megabyte limit. Isn't this an AWS problem?
Well, I was going to say that I've never heard of a 6 megabyte limit on a
yeah,
bucket.
for one.
So that's something in your settings. Oh, no, hear me. I'm sending the request to Lambda. Okay, so here's the problem. This is exactly what I said earlier, which is you send back a signed URL and then you upload straight to the bucket from the signed URL. What you're trying to do right now is you're trying to upload to a Lambda function. And the Lambda function outputs to the bucket, which means all the data you upload has to pass through the Lambda function, which is just why. What is it going to do? Is it going to do anything with that data? No, it's just going to store it. So you use signed URLs. There's go look at AWS signed URLs or Google signed URLs. You generate like a signing key and you on the server side. So you generate that in your Lambda function and return it, basically.
Okay, let's cut off the questions. We do need to keep moving because we have some live coding hopefully planned.
Ooh.
And the questions are going to take over. We're already in an hour.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
What's the preferred method to cache images for offline use, i.e. profile image? Cache network image, done.
Yeah. There's a quick one. Done.
To be honest, I've
scared the dog.
I've
used
multiple,
offline use. Offline use, though.
Yeah. Cache network image.
That works even when
that's the whole idea. That's literally the idea of the package to cache it.
Okay, I haven't played with it. I don't know.
I'm reassuring the dog.
You haven't played with it. How it's like, isn't it like still like the most popular package or one of the most popular packages?
There are things I haven't done yet with Flutter. It's true.
A lot of things I haven't done
it
yet
used
with
to be on
Flutter.
the home. This is kind of interesting. Most popular packages.
Yeah.
It used to be on
I knew
the
they
home.
were coming up with a new homepage, but I've never looked.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I know.
I've been linking directly to whatever package I need. So.
Yeah,
it's very rare that I actually look at the home screen, to be honest.
Yeah.
Look, Unilinks is
should, though.
This is the top package at the moment. We obviously
Wow.
got the Plus plugins, Google APIs.
Oh, nice to see MobX come still at the top too, or in the top.
But there is actually cache network image. There you go. I knew it was going to be in the top somewhere. 12 days ago updated. So this is the go-to. Look at that, 4,096 likes. Good.
Wow.
It's been around a long time.
More than GetX, isn't it?
Almost. Yeah, I was going to say almost as many as GetX.
Anyway, but yeah, this is the easiest thing. You just chuck it in, and then it will cache into a folder. It'll manage the file. It'll base the key off the URL. Boom, you're done. You don't have to worry about it. And you can always clear that cache. It uses this Flutter cache manager to do that. However, there is actually the same authors base. I think it's Baseflow. Octo-image. Octo-image is the new image library for showing placeholders, error image transformation. Recommend using cache network image version 2.2 or newer. Okay, so it looks like they've stopped this package and started updating cache network image. It was the other way around at one point. I was going to say recommend this, but nope, they're saying recommend cache network image. So go use that. There you go. Anyway, so that's the answer to that question.
Go.
Mm-hmm.
You can obviously build your own cache, and you can do your own image provider, which I've done before, and you can store your own and do your own thing. But chucking the widget and just using that. Cache network image also has cache network image provider, so you can just chuck providers in Inks and other places where you use images and you achieve the same thing. So.
Okay. Is passwordless better than multi-factor authentication as a security matter?
I mean, it's essentially the same thing to set. I mean, it depends on the multi-factor you're choosing. That'll be one thing, right? But in the sense that passwordless login is like email link, right? Where you send someone an email link, they have to click on it to open up. That's, if someone's email is broken, normally that's the worst case, because now anyone they can log into any website and reset any password because they get an email to reset, right? So I'd say that can be obviously a problem, but the same thing goes with multi-factor, right? In multi-factor, if you do like let's say on-device like code, you generate code or whatever on the device, then there's never anything ever sent. So there's never anything to hack as such, right? There's nothing to press and reset. So even if they go into your emails, you've still got security with your device separated from your emails. So in that sense, I'd say MFA is more secure, but passwordless login is definitely more secure than a password login. I think that the idea here being that you can't, as a creator of apps, you can never expose someone's password in any way, shape, or form. You're not dealing with encryption in any shape, or form. It's just press a button, they log in. However, you need to get deep link working. It's kind of not that great of experience. I suspect MFA is probably the better way. If you're going to spend time doing login, do MFA, and then use like the Firebase MFA.
On just a general security thought, one of the things that a number of people are doing, which is kind of cute, is if you're going to use the fingerprint, there are certain people in this world who might try to take your phone and stick your finger on it. So use an unusual finger. And then when they keep trying to hit the finger they think 5 times, it'll lock. And
I can't believe I've seen. I can't believe I've seen things like online where in America they actually do that, and I'm like, that is such a breach of everything. It's just ridiculous. Anyway,
if I could do it off my nose, I would.
Talking about just briefly talking about the whole sort of fingerprint, that's biometric login. That is a package called local auth, which is by the Flutter team. The reason why it's called local auth is it's done on device. No fingerprints are stored by your server. No like iris scans are stored by the server. It's all not. You never even get to see any of that. You literally see, can I do biometrics, and did it work? Basically, you get a boolean there, authenticate, and you get a boolean come back. That is it. If they did yes, then you know they pressed their thumbprint. That is not the same as login. Okay, it is unlocking, right? It is the same as like you can lock the app. So to open the app up again, they have to like put their thumb to unlock it, right? But there's not the same as logging into an account. To log into an account, you have to have credentials with a remote server. So what happens a lot of the time, and you'll see this in banking apps, is when they want to use that biometric, what they're actually doing is you first log in with real credentials like a password, or you authorize however you want to. Then they do a key exchange, and you have a private key on your device that is encrypted. And then they use the biometrics to unlock the local key to then interact with the server. So just to explain that, yeah, if you're going to use local auth, it's just use it as unlock to unlock something locally, as it were. Don't unlock the app. It's not something that is the same as a password authentication or anything like that to a remote server. For reasons of privacy, obviously. Anyway.
Okay.
Amir, is it possible
to control or detect a swipe, a gesture? It's, if there was only something, I don't know, called a gesture detector.
Could that be related?
I don't know.
I'm gonna one up you, Scott.
Well, hang on, because this goes back to a very old saying. Okay, and that's something we used to say early on in alpha, because people would be like, how am I going to build this thing that does this? And the saying was, there's a widget for that. So there we go. It's in chat. Once again, nice, easy explanation. The gesture detector will do a gazillion things. It really will. If you are using drags, it's a little bit more complicated, but it will do whatever you need.
And I'm going to take this just a step further, since people like to seem like the in-depth stuff. I just want to show you this. So underneath gesture detector is raw gesture detector, and raw gesture detector is actually what actually takes the gesture recognizers and runs them. So there's a key for this though, is sometimes there's a gesture that you want, or you want to combine multiple gestures together to do something magical, and you can't do it with a normal gesture detector. It just doesn't work that way, because one overrides another in the gesture arena. So that's where it comes down to the fact that you can actually build your own gesture recognizer. That's the thing you handed here. It's called a gesture recognizer factory. You provide your own gesture recognizer, and then you can have it do whatever you want. So the raw gesture detector will then post the events, the raw events on down, on up, on move, and so on to your gesture recognizer, where you can control your own gesture. So this is down the rabbit hole for most people. Standard gesture detector will do just fine. Okay, so I just want to clarify that point. But this is, if you want to experiment, this is an interesting place to go look. Now, there's also underneath that listener. So listener is explicitly about dealing with the raw events. This listens to the raw events only. There's no gestures. So let me be clear. A gesture is like an interaction with the device. So that's like down, move. So you put your finger down on the device, you move it and lift it up. That is a gesture. That is now a drag gesture. You with me? And then you did it vertically. So now it's a vertical drag gesture rather than a horizontal drag gesture. Whereas, having those raw events of down, right, or move or up, that is where listener comes in. A lot of the time, you won't need to use this. However, it can be applicable again some situations. And there's also a mouse region is quite handy when you're trying to do the hover stuff. So on enter, on exit of a widget, you want to use mouse region. But if you look in here, the listener, you get on pointer down, move up, hover, cancel, pan zoom start, pan zoom update, blah blah blah. These are all the raw things, including signals, and signals are things like when you have like a stylus and things like this, where you want to like tap and do extra events. So there you go. Look, it actually says here, look, signal, K button down, event. In fact, there is also, to be clear, another thing that's interesting that most people don't realize is when you get those down move events in the event details. I know in the raw events you get these. I'm pretty sure in the event details you also get these, and that is you actually get the device, what kind of device, and what pointer it is. So you might have, let's say you had three mice attached to your computer. Device would indicate which of those mice it was. Kind would obviously be the type of device. In this case, it would be a mouse, right? Rather than a touch or stylus or trackpad or whatever it might be. And then your pointer is the pointer for that stylus. Now, if you put 5 fingers on your display, most displays are multi-touch. If you put 5 fingers on, you will get 5 down events. Each pointer would be each one of your fingers. Each one will be indexed separately. So then if they move your hand around, it will actually track which finger moved to which new place on the screen. And you can actually get all that information. So that's where it comes to doing the sort of more advanced, like drawing programs and things that do pressure sensitivity and multiple fingers and all sorts of other fun things. Anyway, yeah, hopefully that helps.
There's a widget for that. Perfect Christmas gift.
Oh yeah.
I did that very quickly. Well,
pop in the chat. I also posted the Patreon link earlier, and the Patreon helps us run this show. The patrons themselves, the money for the Patreon actually pays for StreamYard, the software used for this, and you also
the money for StreamYard also pays for things like that mug, which we use as giveaways. We don't actually put the link out there for that because then legal at Google might get unhappy with us. So, but if we use it for just giveaways, they tend to leave us alone.
Yeah.
Right. Did that one. Right, next one.
We just did that one.
Yep.
Do you have to use a stateful widget to call did change app lifecycle state and detect if an app is in background or foreground, or can it be called with a stateless widget and a state management like block? You can do it in the background. You don't require a state, right? The actual, if you just look at what was the widgets binding? No, a widgets observer, whatever it's called,
widgets binding observer. Or there's also one instance.
Let's take a quick look.
But
you can always really cheat and just wrap your whole app in a visibility widget or visibility detector.
So as you can see here, widgets binding observer itself is just an abstract class, which means you can put it on anything, right? So you can have this did app cycle, I say, on anything you like, and as long as you do the register and unregister, add observer, remove observer, and make sure you do that. You don't add multiple times to one listener. You should be fine. Go on, Randall. Sorry.
I'm just trying to say there is a hook that does this all built in, not built in, but like a hook is easy to add to your project, and some people are already doing that anyway. But there's 2 of them. There's one that's gives you a callback on apps on a change of app lifecycle, and there's another that it just gets the current value, and so you can make your own logic about that.
Are you talking about Flutter hooks? Sorry, yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. There's a package called Flutter hooks, which kind of manage the life cycle for you. In other words.
Yeah, can.
As in the add and remove. That was the whole question, wasn't it? Or did I think that was the whole question. All right, moving on. What is the disadvantage of Flutter Web against the web rivals? Well, I'd say like at the moment the runtime is still quite heavy, but that's because you can do anything. You're not limited to just DOM and CSS, right? The other nice thing about it is you don't have to write CSS and you don't have to deal with HTML. So there's definitely disadvantages in terms of the size right now. The size of a deployed application can be quite big. And that means there's a bit of a load time. But that's why we say it's meant for web apps, because you download the app, it runs. Once it's downloaded once, it's cached, right? And it actually stores itself as a service worker inside your browser, so that it runs in the background, does all this kind of fun stuff. Not a lot of the others do that. It just, again, they're designed for websites, not web apps. It's just a different, slightly. Think of it as Flutter. You can compare Flutter with PWA solutions.
Yeah.
So like Angular and a few of the others around that sort of thing.
Right.
But to be honest, again, you can still write, as we showed with, like we talked about earlier, Jasper. You can still write, websites in Dart instead of JavaScript. You can still use CSS and HTML with Dart. So there's no limit.
You can still use Angular Dart. It still works. It's just being maintained by an independent troop of people now. So yeah.
Does the deferred loading?
Deferred, probably.
Oh, deferred.
Yeah.
Does the deferred loading boost the performance of loading in Flutter web page equal or closer to React.js?
See, this goes back to it yet again and again. If you're doing something big enough to need deferred loading, are you trying to do an entire web page or website in Flutter instead of a web app?
No, this is not. I see this as a web app, right? This is definitely a web app, but like, does this differ loading for boost the performance of loading? Yes, deferred loading does boost the performance because it breaks it up into multiple JS files. So yes, but there's always going to be like a base amount of stuff you need to load the UI for Flutter, which is going to be consistent, right? Mm-hmm. The thing that you're going to be doing when you do deferred is just breaking up the logic of your app and some of your stuff from loading. But again, depending on what you're building and how big you're building that thing, whether it performs, it boosts the performance. Well, do a test and find out if it boosts your performance. Equal or closer to, well, that's subjective, right? How big is the React version of your thing? Is it larger? Does it take up more size? Is it slower? Like, who knows, right? So there's no answer for that one, right? What you need to do is actually test it yourself. You're asking a question for us, which is you try out deferred loading and find out, does it equal or is it closer to the React.js version of your app? And if you don't have a React.js version of your app, then the answer is nobody knows.
Yes.
I don't think, to be honest, I don't. Come on.
A program that you've written is always faster than a program you have yet to write.
There's also, I mean, to be honest, the other side to that. I was going to say to that quote, Randall, is that once you've written one, you can always write the second one faster because you know what you're building now. That's so a lot of it ends up being refactoring and reimagining what you've already got to make it more optimal performance.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on.
Yep.
Question: SEO is pretty impossible on Flutter web app. Is there a few packages that aim to improve this marginally? Do you know how else SEO can be improved?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've done enough of that.
Don't do your SEO in the web app. Do your SEO in the web page and embed the web app, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure why you'd want to search and optimize a web app, because normally a web app is a logged in thing, right? You log into it to access content. That's what we're saying. SEO would not be required if it was a web app. If it's a website, SEO is required. Yeah. And at that point, you can do some interesting things, like you can actually so as you know, the early I'll give an example of what you can do. And I say can, I'm not sure you want to do it, but you can do it. And that is you can actually make like a little server-side script that returns the index.html file from Flutter for the different URLs that are being requested, and it updates the metadata for them. So now, depending on what URL gets loaded, it returns different metadata. But you've done SEO.
I've done that in Dart. Still haven't published my package. Been promising that for 2.5 years. I'm sorry. I will get to it eventually, but it's just low priority because of everything we keep saying here about SEO, which is let's not worry about that for Flutter.
Yeah.
Okay, move on. Let's do. Oh, I also want to say real quick, we're cutting questions off from the chat room. I've said it a couple times because Simon wants to do some live coding. Simon wants to do some live coding. And it would be nice if we could get to that. I don't know if we are going to actually.
We'll see.
We'll try.
We'll see if we can get some time in.
No more questions. Come back in 167 hours, please. Yeah, go ahead.
So it's what's really like the stream gets going, right? We get all these like things, and it starts. People start going, "Oh, that's a really good question idea I want to mention," and suddenly it kind of snowballs. And there is some good questions that come in later, but you have to.
Oh, I know.
Write them down, bring it down next week, because otherwise we just can't get there.
Start with those next week, please. We had this one before, I think, or maybe I answered it over on Discord. I can do that.
Riverpod.only how to pass Riverpod container to classes to use providers anyway. In Flutter, we have widget ref.
On Dart, the container. Let me answer this. That's a Riverpod question. In Dart, you have the provider container. You put that as a global somewhere, and then that acts like your universal ref. So you say that container dot listen, that container dot read, that container dot exist, that container dot invalidate. That becomes your ref, essentially, is the name of the container.
Oh,
yes.
Did not know that.
Yeah, see, I knew this. Riverpod is my area. Right.
AJ says, do we have any security tests for Flutter that we can use in CI/CD? I'm not sure what you mean.
He's been waiting for hours for this question.
I mean, well, and
we don't know.
Yeah, it's security AJ, as we said, it keeps getting put to the bottom. But yeah.
No, but do we have any security tests for Flutter that we can use? When you can use any test in CI/CD. Security test.
Yeah, so skip that part, but just security tests for Flutter. Period.
I mean, Flutter does a bunch of its own security tests as part of its test suite. There's the whole test repo, Flutter test repo, that you can go look at. I don't know what you mean by security test. Do you mean like you want to run some fuzzing? I think you want to know if there's any fuzzing tools for you going security over your own widgets in your own tests. I'm sorry, the question is not clear enough to answer.
We are trying. We're not blowing you off.
Do you have any security tests?
Oh, so wait. Any better?
Security test for Android application. Again, security test is not a definition. I don't know what you mean by security test.
You should be doing this week in security. They're on Tuesday. This week in security is on Tuesday.
You want to know how
we're Humpday.
You want to know how complicated your passwords are, or do they pass security checks? I don't quite fully what you mean by security test. Like you can fuzz and there's just randomly do input and all sorts.
Yep. Move on. Let's just go. Go.
Don't use.
Yeah.
Whoops. How did I get
Not that one?
That's my fault.
Okay.
There we go.
Take away your keys.
Oh man.
Anyway, next. Or are we doing a joke still?
Next.
Okay, this one, there has been a huge discussion about this in the chat. Apparently, he's also put in issues and they keep getting closed, which tells me maybe something is out of scope. But he's talking about wanting to be able to have the dev tools for ARM64. But I was watching a big discussion on this.
Was this why Flutter can build Android app on ARM64 Chromebook but cannot on ARM64 Mac? I know that it is possible for ARM64 Mac, but it's being worked on. There you go.
Yeah,
so you have to remember. So to be clear, most people don't realize this. So be clear, when you compile something, ARM64 Linux does actually exist. Andrew, Amy, please ship. We're not Google.
This is all from the same conversation.
Right, but please ship Android build tools for. It's nothing to do with us. We're not part of the Flutter team. We're not part of Google. Just want to clarify that point. But back to the question that was being asked, right? Why can we build,
actual question?
Can we build them on ARM64 and not ARM64 Mac? So to be clear, when you build code, you build it for what's called a target, right? And the target exists in two things: it's the platform and the architecture that you're compiling for. So, for example, ARM64 is the architecture. The platform in this case is Chromebook or Mac. So when you build, you'll see there's like, for example, Mac, it's called Darwin underneath. So it's Darwin x86, Darwin ARM64. You have Android x86, Android ARM64, Windows x86, Windows x64, Windows ARM. So you've got it's the combination of the two pieces together, which actually have the destination platform. Now that means, be clear, that means that you need to support the desktop environment, for example, on Mac to build Mac apps, and you have to support the architectures ARM64, x86. The same goes for Chromebook. Now, Chromebook, for example, runs Android apps. So when it comes to you're talking about building Android apps, that's because Chromebook has a layer which means that you can run Android apps built in ARM64, which is the same as an Android app built for a mobile device, a tablet or phone. That's why you can just build for it directly, because it's already supported right now. ARM64 macOS is currently not a build target on Flutter on the outputs for the Flutter engine. However, there's tickets out there that are discussing adding that and what they need to do to make that work and behave appropriately. In fact, me and Norbert were actually playing around this the other day and actually have a version of it working. So it's coming. Anyway, that's all I can say about that. Thanks. Can you tell me a bit about record in Dart? Is it similar to Kotlin data classes? Right.
Similar. Yeah.
Similar. There you go. How's that?
Similar.
So Zachara? I'm going to terrible names.
Yeah.
Zachariah. What he's talking about is the fact that they are working on what's it called? I think it's called
Records. Records. Yeah, it's records.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the roadmap or the funnel. If you go to the funnel, you can get to it right away.
So they're actually just taking the idea of a tuple?
It's a bit more than that, actually. That's what I think he's asking. But I thought patterns.
It's also for unpacking and packing. It's in progress. It's being implemented.
Implemented. Yeah, patterns. Right. It's that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this covers the whole record thing. This is the pattern matching syntax. Yeah. So this is that new syntax. So if we go look at the spec, this covers the record types. If I remember rightly. Yes, you get this, right? So let me zoom in.
Destructuring,
Somebody's saying it's already in master.
There you go. Wonderful. As it's
very likely that most of it is in master, yes.
I was going to say, I suspect if it's being worked on, it's in master. There you go. So this is like multiple return type. Destructuring, right? So that's just splaying out. Do you remember this in Perl being like, oh my God, Perl can do this? Anyway. Back in the day. Anyway, so you got that, and then you kind of got the record collectors, I think, which are some of this stuff where you take where you can actually pull out keys based on keys. You can pull out particular values from a map, for example.
Yes.
There is actually, if I remember rightly, somewhere down here, there's also record stuff. Patterns. It's under here.
Patterns, yeah. Patterns are going to be amazing.
Records.
Yeah.
There you go. Lovely syntax. Do we have some examples?
Yeah.
Oh, God. No. There you go. It's basically a conglomeration of map and list, I think, if I remember right, something like that.
Right.
And you can start indexing into those.
Except you index beginning at $1, which people are upset by. It's not $0. It's $1, $2, $3.
Anyway.
See you, Paco.
Yep.
Paco's off. See you, Paco. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, we did actually do a previous thing on this with Kevin Moore, I think. So if you go look at the history of the show, like go to the live stuff on the channel, and you'll do a search for Kevin in there. You'll find the Kevin Moore chats. We cover the language funnel every single time he's on the show. So
David's asking for more clarification on destructuring.
We don't have time.
Destruct. Do we not have?
Like defining it.
Desugaring or destructuring.
Just destructuring. No, it's about taking a return value from a method call and dropping it into individual variables instead of having to just have one variable holding the result and then splitting it out.
Yeah. So tuples and destructuring like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so you can see. I mean, here's his normal sort of notation where this is like a record. So this isn't necessarily the actual final syntax. This is Swift, but it's the same example. It's the same sort of thing where you're taking these two things, putting them into a variable, and then you can extract those two things in order. So the first item in this list ends up being X, and then the second item ends up being Y. And then you can also, in this case, in Swift, you can use dot notation to access the 0th index 1, and that would be put to A equals 1. And then the second index, which would be 3, is put to B, so B is 3.
Yeah, I've never understood. I mean, you can go up to tuple 7 with the package. I don't understand why people don't use this more often, because it would really most of the time you do a custom class. If you don't need any methods, and it's just for data. I mean, you only need 4 or 5 fields. Or
I mean, that's where the tuple package comes in, isn't it? Right? I think it was in Quiver, right? Quiver.
No, tuple is just tuple.dart all by itself, because I'm actually winding a client out of that for a project. So so tuples are interesting. You can do the equivalent of what tuple does for an arbitrary list of values using one of our favorite packages, which is fast immutable collections. Their iList and iMaps are essentially act like tuples in that they are rigid and they can be a hash or a map key and so on. So that's where you should go instead of invoking any tuple package.
Sorry. You mean this one here?
That's the one I'm talking about getting rid of. Yeah.
So the thing is, so this becomes once we get the
records,
the pattern and records features here.
Yeah,
they call it patterns and related features. But when we get the pattern features,
that goes away.
Then that will go away. We won't need it anymore, right? So that will solve those kind of problems.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Moving on.
And just a couple of quick web pages for everybody. Here's fast immutable collections. I'll throw it in chat. And a throwback, for some reason, I guess we never got it on screen. I'll call back to the beginning of the show. Jasper.
Yep.
If you're going to do web in Dart, use Jasper. It's awesome.
Yep.
Okay,
Samir, enough. You're just trolling at this point.
You're out again. Thank you.
Get X versus never mind.
It's enough. Don't even heed.
I have a child within a list view, and the child needs to receive gestures, but I'd like to disable the parent list view scrolling when gesturing inside the child. I mean,
you can ignore the vertical, right?
I mean,
or the gesture detector.
It all depends on what he's trying to do. So if you want to receive horizontal stuff and you got a vertical list, you can just do that. They won't collide with each other. That's literally the whole reason why we have horizontal dragging and vertical dragging, right? So you can put like a page view or a horizontal list view inside a vertical list view. But if you start doing stuff where you can scroll and pan inside something else that's scrolling, that's a really bad UX. So
Well, and the other
you're trying
thing
to do
too
something
is,
that's
yeah,
probably bad.
if you're using a list view, don't have the children scrollable along the main axis. You
That's what I'm
can't
trying to
have,
say.
because there's a horizontal list view as well. Yeah, whichever direction the list view scrolls, you really don't want to make the children scroll that way.
So you can actually disable the parent scrolling when you detect that down event. So when you detect the down event on your inner scroll view, you can set the physics to never scroll on your parent list view, which essentially means it doesn't no longer receives the scroll events, doesn't react to scroll, and then you continue to scroll and then you let go.
Okay, well, here's the question though, RVB. When do you want the list view to scroll? And how is the user going to know the difference? And how is your app going to know the difference?
There's RVB. There's also this aspect of what portion of the screen are you actually trying to make this? Let's say you go, oh, it's only ever going to be this small portion of my list view that's going to be scrolling many directions. They can always like drag from the outside to drag up the list view. It becomes a really clunky UX experience, right? Exactly. In that example of Street View, I would tap on the Street View and let it expand to fill the screen. Then you interact with it and you hit back and then it zooms back into the list view. It's such a better user experience than trying to scroll within the scroll. It's just, you don't want to be doing that, right? Like, you can imagine now, here's the problem with that scroll inside scroll with your Street View idea, right? You put that on there. Now, the device they're running it on your phone, it looks good, right? There's enough room at the top and bottom. On your phone, it looks perfect. Now, I pick up on my Pixel. My Pixel has a different screen ratio, and it eats up all my entire screen for Street View. How do I drag the list view? Once the Street View comes on the screen, I'm now moving the Street View. I'm like, how do I get out of this? I can't get out of this. There's no buttons to do that, right?
He has his moments.
So the whole point here is panning and scrolling in something that is proportionally inside something else that scrolls is always a bad idea. Many years of experience, just don't do it. As I said, the key is tap it, have it so that you tap it, and then you can do a hero animation, launch it out into another route, and then you can pan and scroll, and you can tap on like zoom in and do all these other interactions because you're no longer in that restricted list view environment, and you hit back and it takes you back. You're done. Right.
By the way, I do want to thank Death God for an incredible amount of patience. Yes, your question has been parked the entire stream. We still have it. We have not round filed it.
No.
It's here.
We try not
it's
to
coming right after this one.
There we go.
Riverpod cancel token, DO implementation, is not working as expected after canceling to start a new request without any code.
Yeah.
I think Wanda left her crystal ball in her other pants. But
I think there's a sequencing issue about DO needing a cancel token, but also Riverpod has its own idea of things that are being passed backwards and forwards there. We have to look at code. And again, the Riverpod Discord is really amazing. Remy himself hangs out there and answers questions during his awake hours in Europe. And so it's a really great resource. I've been learning stuff directly from the horse's mouth, as they say. It's really incredible.
You know, the craziest, if I remember correctly, Remy said he doesn't drink coffee. I don't know how.
What?
I don't know. If I remember correctly, Remy told me that he doesn't drink coffee.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know how.
Impossible.
I drink tea.
I don't know.
I don't drink coffee at all. I've never had coffee in my life. Zero.
Okay. And
just tea.
Now, at long last, Death God, your question. Thoughts on ChatGPT?
So
we were talking about this before the show and wondering if we should have ChatGPT answer your questions and then we critique the answers.
We could go back through and see if we can find some. Let's go pick some questions and see what ChatGPT.
Yep.
So we've actually got here is ChatGPT. So we've been playing around.
That didn't leave, did he?
Well, if he did, I'm sorry, but he can look at the recording. Anyway, so do we have some questions in the chat we can plan to see what it comes up with?
Okay.
So
For once, we're going to open to another question or two, even though we're at almost 2 hours. Here we go. How to?
Oh, the
Okay.
isolates one. There was one on the isolates one that was actually getting
Well, and the thing is, I
down
can't.
see if you can find it.
Getting there.
We can't. We can't
yeah,
click
it wasn't
on
marked.
any of these. As soon as I try to click on them, I can't copy because it'll just put them on screen. You know, like if I click that.
Oh, I know what you're saying. Yeah, that sucks. You could star it
can't.
and then go see it in the.
I think I have a way. So star the one.
Is it okay? Hang on. Is it possible to transfer a widget from one page to another? So try that. Flutter. Is it possible to transfer a widget from one page to another? And yes and no. You're talking about a hero, and you can use 2 instances of the same widget, and because of the way it'll hero across, it looks like it's the exact same thing on both pages, even though it's not.
Yeah. Oh, get this.
Like a drag and drop.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
You can't do it. I don't think you can do it between routes, but if you're using a page view, you might be able to get away with it.
I can't copy and paste from the website. Yeah. All right. Never mind. I tried to do inspector and it still didn't work. So we'll just have to type.
What about from?
Is it possible to transfer a widget? No. Maybe
a Flutter widget. A Flutter widget. You gotta say Flutter somewhere.
And actually, to clarify it, the clarification is it possible to drag and drop a Flutter widget from one page to another?
Let's just do this. Let's see how this goes.
Let's do this and see what it comes up with. See what it thinks about. So whilst that's doing that, it's thinking, which at the moment it used to be so much faster when I first tried this. But
people are using this. People are using this, right?
James, you have to combine that with drag. What is it? Dragon speaks naturally.
Yeah, there we go.
So in short, the problem you've actually got is not one of can you. The answer is yes, you can, because you've got full control of the UI. The question is how do you, right? And that's another matter entirely, right? So we'll talk about this question and we'll see what GPT comes up with in a second whilst it does that. So is it possible to transfer one widget from another? So as we said, you're trying to drag, right? And drag and drop is you need to know when you. So first of all, when you drag, you move that widget into what's called the overlay. So and you can move that overlay around. That's literally how pop-up menus work. And then once it's in that overlay,
let's see where you're going.
You can have it follow the finger because the overlay has the gesture set that covers up the entire screen, or however you want to steal the input, right? So when you tap on something, you long press, you then essentially add into the overlay in a transparent overlay with gesture detector, and you place the same widget on top. When you move, you're essentially moving that widget. Now, then you need to work out what is underneath my widget that I'm moving to know, should I transition the screen, and then you can drop it on the new screen. And the problem here is doing that sort of detection of what's underneath. Now you can register drop targets, and you can say, am I on a drop target, and things like that. You can there is actually a whole series of things designed for one screen, and it does handle scrolling, if you remember rightly. So you can do this thing, ensure visible. Let me see if in fact I did this drag drop thing in a list, which was I'm going to give you it's along the same lines, which was highlighting, was it image
Devin Joshi did an interesting thing on draggable and drag target that might be a little helpful. Let me put it in chat.
Multi-select. Here we go. So whilst we're waiting for GPT, which apparently is errored out, I'm going to try again. Maybe it's not specific enough. So I did this multi-select grid view.
Overloaded servers. It always has an answer. That's scary.
That's people are hitting it hard.
It's hit the popular press.
So I'll post a link to this in the chat, and what you see here is if I click and drag, I can now move the mouse, select, and I can also scroll, and it carries on selecting.
Wow.
Now, this principle of doing this, right? I can click here and drag up, right? This here of like selecting and dragging is done with what's called ensure visible. It says, which should be in there. Ensure. But my luck that it's not there where I want it to be. Anyway,
yeah.
And maybe it's just that you can't. I mean, I know it's there because I'm pretty sure it's there, unless it got changed. There's a one time I want it, I can't find it. I know. Anyway,
Of course.
Anyway, go look through, hunt through, and you'll see what I do. But there you go. So you can see here, I've got a gesture detector, and then the ignore pointer is selecting. So basically, when we're selecting, the grid view does not get the user input. And you could do a similar thing with dragging between screens. And all you need to do is surround your entire screen with your drag controller, essentially, which does all this stuff.
Okay. And folks, we didn't open up questions again.
No.
It was just a couple for checking out ChatGPT. You got something? Yeah, because we're at almost 2 hours, and we need to buy dog food over here.
Oh,
so I need to
look.
get back on the clock.
Oh, let's see what it comes up with. Yes, it's possible to transfer widget from one page to another route. You can do this by using the navigator widget, which the utilities widget can use to perform. I mean, it's not wrong. To transfer widget from one page to another, you can use navigator push method to push a new route to the stack and pass the widget.
It's technically correct.
Technically correct. Yes.
Not bad.
Correct, yeah.
Not bad.
This will allow the widget to be rendered on the new page route, which is correct. So you can construct one widget, pass it into your route, into the builder, and it will be rendered on the new screen. And what's really nice about this is, look, it even gave you an example. Oh my god!
It's the code. There's the code.
And then it gave it to the route, so it shows it on the next screen. So transfer was taken quite literally. But if we could read it, no, I want to
drag and drop.
It's not bad though. You know, there's an old joke about Microsoft documentation being technically correct but totally useless given the situation. But this is better than that. I think this is better than a lot of the old Windows documentation.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying.
And a second route. I mean, it's probably not route.
Okay.
It is not. It is not possible to drag and drop a widget from one page.
No, that's great.
In Flutter.
What?
In other words, language structure of your app's interface to determine inherited.
This is about user experience doing this. Yeah,
there are other ways to transfer widget from one route to another. However, there are other ways to do it.
As mentioned earlier.
It knows who you are, and you asked it before. That is cool.
Yeah. This loads of widgets to be rendered on the new route. Blah, 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 blah. And then it just suggests that you can use an inherited widget to do something above it in the top level.
It's not understanding that you want it to be visible as you transfer. That's all.
Well, that's just a one query away. You could add the query.
That's all it's missing is I want the widget to be visible as I transfer.
There you go. Type that in.
What
he just said.
I want the widget to be
visible.
Let's get this out of here because it's kind of blocking.
Yeah.
Sorry. I want the widget to be visible when dragging.
Dragging to the other screen. Shoot.
As mentioned earlier, I love it. I think it's so bizarre. It's got more code. Different code.
As mentioned earlier, it is not possible to drag a widget from one page to another. However, you can create the appearance of dragging a widget from one page to another using a draggable widget. And the draggable widget allows you to create a widget that can be dragged by the user, and it has feedback property that can be used to specify a widget that will be shown when the widget is being dragged, which is true. However, we create a draggable widget that wraps my widget feedback. Sure, this is just explain this code here. Keep in mind that not actually transferring the widget from one page to another. It's simply creating the appearance of dragging from one widget to another. And actually transferring the widget from one, I would use the method we discussed earlier, which is true.
Okay.
Right?
I never thought I would say this, but Rubber Duck, you're fired.
Yeah.
Right.
Now type in change the variable names to Spanish in that last example and it will do it.
Change
only
what should I do?
Change the
Change
variable
that.
names to French. Let's use French. Just pick something weird.
Formal names to French. Should I just say that?
In that example. Well,
just do that. No, did it. One widget. one widget.
Yep, my widget.
My nouvelle route.
My new. Wow, this is
Wow.
nuts.
This
I
is
know.
or you can say refactor this. Look. Refactor,
You know, I hate to say it, but this thing is going to drop offline real fast.
No. Refactor that code to use Cupertino. What how do you spell it? Cupertino page route. Oh my god. Page
ER.
route.
Yeah, Tino.
TPER.
I know.
That's it. Cupertino.
It is right, yeah. I know. Let's just see what happens.
This thing, I swear, it's going to go down for a while.
Oh look,
Just
look.
because they're not going to be able to pay for the back
Did it
end.
right? Did it right? It got it right.
Did it right. Look.
Wow.
I love it. You just say do this, and it just does it. And you're like, oh my god, okay.
Yes, James, we did
Nuts.
say we were going to do some live coding, but we didn't say who was doing the live coding.
Exactly.
Oh man.
Come on. Let's get to code something else for us. Should we have like? Come on. Let's think of it. Think of something we can ask it to do.
How do I set up Riverpod?
Oh, someone said say that is not possible with draggable widget. Let's just see what it says. It is not. It does. It. Oh, we've worked. Well, let's just say it does not work with draggable widget. I want to see if it
correct.
Yeah,
removes the
why I'm the back end on this. If they're using any kind of a service like AWS or GCP, the cost is going to skyrocket over the last couple of days.
It's on fire.
It
Everything's
has.
on
It
fire.
has. Yeah. It takes.
If they're
sometimes it
providing
takes
their own
sometimes
back
it doesn't
end, they're
break.
all right.
Yeah.
But even then, like you still have to pay to scale it. Like
It's Elon Musk's money. We don't care.
It is.
Yeah, he was the early investor in architecture. This.
What?
He's still heavily invested in.
Whilst that's thinking, I'm going to answer another question that came into chat.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, may as well.
What are some of the useful cases of isolates in a Flutter app? Is it viable to put everything except widgets into separate isolates?
No.
But why?
Viable?
Yeah.
No. No.
I mean, you
Yeah,
could,
the thing is
but
no.
viable, no. I mean, like you do so much.
Retry.
back and
Well,
forth
don't.
management that
There's overhead to an isolate.
Oh.
There it is.
So the
Yes,
draggable widget does not have any special behavior when used with Cupertino page route. Ooh, it will work the same way as it does with serial page route. It simply is the only effects. I love the way it's like remember the conversation.
Oh yeah.
If you're thinking draggable, you might have to do this. Oh wow, look, undraggable cancel. And do this route. I don't know. This is not right. This is the realms of it. It's like I can reset.
Well,
the
you're twisting it into a way that is almost guaranteed to have it make a mistake.
Yep.
That's not really a fair test.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
John Zuka, I haven't been able to open it for 20 minutes.
Right.
Hey, let's come on. Let's come up with something else. Come on.
Wait.
Code.
There's a George in the chat.
Yeah, is that a George? Hey, look, there's a George.
There's a George. Folks, one of the other original people in the Flutter community, and then he got a job that dragged him away, but George is definitely still one of us.
Right, come on. Code me an example of how to use a page view with navigator used on each page. Oh, there you go.
Oh, good God.
Boom. Let's have a look. Here's an example of page.
And you
view with
didn't
a
even
navigator
have to
each
tell
page.
it Flutter.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't. It must have remembered. I don't know. Like here.
No.
Okay, so
maybe.
look, Flutter app, my homepage, yeah, scaffold, page view, navigator on each page with on generic route with first page, second page, third page. And there's an example, first, second, and third page, boom. And then it explains it as well.
This is better than Stack Overflow.
I got one. Show
Go.
me code to test a widget that adds 2 numbers from a form.
Show me code that
To test
show me dark code, Flutter code.
Flutter code. Well, like dark code, you're right. I guess. Yeah, that'll help, I guess.
Yeah.
Show me
Yeah,
Flutter
because
code
it is.
that will
Well, no, it is a Dart. It's Dart.
One of
There's
you,
no
one of you,
fluttering
one of you.
adding.
Just test a widget that adds 2 numbers from a form.
Yeah. Test. Show me a test, a Dart test, a Flutter widget test. Show me a Flutter widget test that tests 2 numbers being added in a form.
Yeah. Do it. Make it work. Make it so.
It's thinking. It's got to think harder this time.
It's got code.
Oh my god! It actually fucking did it. I wasn't expecting. I'm trying to trick you.
There went our family-friendly rating.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I thought that was the one that was going to blow it.
Adding 2 numbers in a form. Look, opens up calculator, pump the calculator, enter text, first number 10, into second number key 20, find the add button, tap it, test the result is 30, right?
30.
Calculator,
How does
form
it know?
field, form state, add number, validates. Oh, this is legit, man. This is legit.
I'm done.
And here's the sad thing.
Add
Okay,
numbers.
Simon when he's looking at this, he's doing a code review right now, and he finds more wrong with my code than with this.
Yeah.
I mean,
This is great. Value is empty.
it's
This
even
is
got
great.
validators.
Validators. Oh my god.
Hang on. I've got something to add to it. I only want the test. I only want the text form fields to accept numbers.
Oh no.
That quote after the S or before the S might throw it,
I don't know.
because it does have a different meaning.
Well, I was specifically saying that so it can show that
It'll
there's
figure
two
it out.
Identity.
It will
RVB.
figure it out.
Wait. Back it up. RVB is saying isn't raised button deprecated, and that is true. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure, but it's still functional code.
Yeah, but
Yes.
that's not bad. I don't know where in the world did it find raised
You
button.
could just say raised button is deprecated and it will replace it. It'll say, "Oh, I'm
No,
sorry," and it will change it.
Yeah. Should we try it? Should we try it after this?
After this comes back. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, but here's the
using it
question.
as an
Here's what I'm
assistant.
wondering though.
yeah,
Where is it even finding raised button?
I know. Older knowledge. It's probably read the entire internet.
Also they stopped new data coming into. Tell Alexa to shut up. Right. So they
Alexa, wash your mouth.
Alexa, erase my files.
No, we were supposed to be done by now, so I set a reminder for myself.
Yeah.
Oh! What's this? I actually did it. Look, to make sure text form for only accepts numbers, use the whitelisting text input formatter.
Oh, it is. That's right.
It's digits only.
Digits only. No.
Can you update? Hang on a minute. Can you update? Can you
just tell it? Just tell
Oh
it's
no,
deprecated.
that's a wicked
you
one.
refactor the previous test
With
example
Go router.
to use it to use this?
No, well, Go router.
No, I just want to be like,
Oh,
I'm
no,
just being
No,
like,
this is great. Oh no, this stuff works. This works exactly like this. I've spent hours now playing with this that I should have been using billable time instead. But no,
you know what I'm going to use it for.
I wanna-
Here's what I'm going to use it for. Build me what is this in regex?
yeah, I was about to say
To
but
build
this-
my
this-
regex.
But look, this is what's really cool. It shows you
Michael,
digital.
hey.
Just look at
it
this.
did show you the regex for it further
It
down.
shows you
yeah.
digit over, and then it then shows you the alternative regex expression as well. Which I think is
Wow.
absolutely crazy.
Yes.
We're gonna ask this. What was that example there? Raise button. I want to say, but raise button is deprecated after this.
Just leave it at that. Don't tell it what to replace it with. It'll actually figure it out most of the time. Oh, it's hung up. Probably it's gonna blow up.
No, it might do. Oh,
okay. Here's
skip that one.
Here's the question:
well.
Can we fork this? The OpenAI and put it on our own back end so that we don't run into these problems.
It is all open source. The training data is what takes time.
Yeah,
training data takes a lot of stuff. The training data is not open source, I don't believe.
So what I was going to say, yeah, they only trained it up until last year. So there's a year of data not in this system. So if you want to ask it anything recently, it won't be in there.
Well, I'm gonna post a URL that will blow your mind.
Oh, it was saying, how come
James, it's right there. ChatOpenAI.com.
I've just posted it. It's not like this isn't special to us, but the service is basically being overly overwhelmed right now. So
that's true. They have an API for writing your own apps. You get
Do you know what's Inception? Do you know what's Inception? Show me here. Write me a Flutter example app that uses the what's it called? OpenAI chat.
Oh, good God!
API to converse with the bot. Bot? Oh no, bit. No.
Converse the bit. Converse the other bit.
See if it actually figures out what I meant. So
just a second. I pasted a URL as Flutter community. And this, you got to go read this. They built an entire virtual machine with Linux, and it interpreted Linux command lines. It was amazing.
I was chatting.
And also, by the way, if you want to use the API and other stuff like that, here's the overview for the beta OpenAI.com overview. I just put that in there in the chat. So, and when you see all these Flutter communities, we're all logged in as Flutter community into StreamYard. So when we type, it all comes up as the same person.
Except when I type directly into the chat.
Right. No, if we're typing into YouTube, it comes up as our personal accounts.
They have
you're being timed out.
Hang on.
Your session's
dead. No, it's saying we are asking too many requests.
Yeah, we personally.
There's actually some really cool. I'm trying to find it now. I can't open. Oh, it's OpenAI. Hang on. OpenAI chat. There's actually a page on OpenAI's site about how to better get the bot to write you code. There's a whole section in their documentation around it. I can't find it. Great. But try again. Let's just try again and see what happens.
I'm already looking at it. Let me steal the share for a minute since you got nothing going there.
Go for it.
I think you're talking about the code completion right here.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
That's now in Copilot.
This is the link I put in.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yep.
So there's a bunch of if you go, is this it? Yeah. If you go back.
Yeah. This is learn how to generate and manipulate code.
Oh, it is.
Perl code. Yeah. Nice.
Oh, look, Go. It does Dart as well, but it's not on that list.
Yep.
Hey, look, this is crazy.
What, if you need to code JavaScript in a way that's not going to blow up in your face because it's not strongly typed, this could probably do it.
We're over time. We should probably start thinking about wrapping this up. Yeah. And we could be here for another hour with this stuff.
Oh yeah. No, we could be here for days messing around.
I want to see if we get an answer from this thing. I'm just trying again. Let's see if we get an answer. In the meantime, what's this? How to implement a recorder button widget with pulsing background. Currently unable to manage the set state. Start pulsing animation. You go in one. You just do that. You create your animations. and then you run them with a you can run them with a repeat, and so it keeps going and pulsing in and out. And then you just adjust the widgets. You can use not the implicitly animate widgets, the what are they called? Like this transition widgets.
What I'm wondering, if you make the animation, the pulsing animation in a circle or whatever shape, right? And you use that as the child of a gesture detector. The gesture detector on pressed handler shouldn't mess with the timing of the animation or the running of it.
No. Animation, if you do scaling in your animation, so here's the difference. Let me be clear. I will actually be clear about this point to many people. If you change the physical width and height, let's say you use an animate container or something like that, and change the physical width and height, that will change the gesture detector. But if you set a scale, that's a transform to scale, you're changing the painting scale, and it just paints it larger. It doesn't take up more layout. And that's what you do when you use pulsing animations and stuff like that. What you're doing is you're changing the scale of paint. You're not changing the size of the widget.
See, and then I would cheat the other way. I would use a sized box or a sized box with a clip to make it into a circle or whatever I wanted. And then I would have the gesture detector wrapping that. And that way the gesture detector is always the same size, even though the child is pulsing. I'm sorry. Right. Well, the box is always the same size, even though the child's in and out. It looks like your button's changing size, but it's not.
Well, it is if you change the size box, right?
No, you're not changing the size box. That's the point. The gesture detector wraps a static size box that never changes, but the size box has a child that is changing, and that's the animation. So when you click on the gesture detector, it's higher up the tree.
Right.
All right, let's wrap up.
You just set the you put a center in the box. That way it breaks the tight constraints and allows the animation to change.
Cool.
Anyway.
Right. I'm just getting errors now. I'm just getting constant errors saying too many tries, slow down. Yeah. So we've run out of our 3 attempts right now. It's not letting us go any further. But that was fun. It was fun.
It was.
So you had to ruin it, Simon, because I was going to use it to make that new table we're talking about.
Okay then. Well.
Oh my goodness. Here's one. When you do this, look and see if it's got proper doc comments, and type in says the doc comments are missing, and see what it does.
No. There was that. I seen someone do this. They said like add comments to that, and he gave an example. And they went add comments to that, and he went and put examples in comments in the example for them. It was crazy.
Unfortunately not. We've been trying to get out the door for a while now.
Yeah. We're wrapping. We're trying to wrap.
If you have any questions, you can always send them on Twitter to the Flutter community bot and the Flutter community account and things like that, or send us, try and send us.
Send
me questions. That's why we have them.
I would ask that of
the math, just the math. Yeah, that would actually be a really good question for it.
Yeah.
What's that? Oh, ask that question
to the bot.
So actually, that would probably be a nice question. However, I will mention that your thing is you animate books, and there's animation, which is one topic, and then you've got your mathematics around animation, which is more about Cartesian planes and Cartesian coordinates, which are just I don't know, just that's just normal mathematics. I'd probably have a look at. Probably say go look at Brilliant.org on one of those training sites where they have like examples that you can walk you through and talk about the math, because they're like interactive, and that kind of is a better learning experience than just grabbing a book. But
Altair, don't remind Simon that this thing might be able to replace the non-senior coders because he'd have to pay it less than me.
Yeah. Anyway, right. Time for it. We're off. See you later. Have a good one. See you next week.
All right. Next week. See ya.
Yeah, next week.